Welcome to the announcement video for mine and Phil's next event that we'll be running for the Horus Heresy. Phil, what are we doing?
So we're hosting our 5th instalment of the Melos campaign. So Melos 5, 28 days later.
Yeah.
This is going to be in next year, the 4th of May, 2024, at the Vale, which is near us in Manchester.
Yeah.
We've been running this campaign now, an event series for
A long time.
a long time.
Long
time. We've been working on the pack recently for the past 3 months.
Phil told me not to mention how long we were working on the pack for, but I think he's run out of steam a little bit. So we're going to be working through the pack today, as well as giving you a bit of an overview of the narrative behind the event, because really that's what we want to focus on at an event.
Yeah.
Is a good, strong narrative. Like we've told this story over the 4 previous parts, where it was originally a campaign that you can see on the channel that would be being released this Saturday, like you've seen this released on Tuesday. On Saturday, we will be releasing like a prelude, which is mine and Phil's Sons and Iron Warriors and Mech and other contingents to go alongside it. We then get invaded by an Ultramarines Retribution fleet, which is how we bring the Loyalist and Traitor War to the system. So we then went on telling the war where there was an invasion of Velosgard, the Siege of Elysia, the Battle for the Calakin Plains, as well as the Vacosian Mountains. And then finally in Melos 4, after lots and lots of mithering, we culminated the story for the end of Heresy 1 with the launching, or the possible launching, of missiles, and we left that up to the players.
So every single one of them launched nuclear missiles at each other all the way through the final parts of the campaign in Melos 4, making it an irradiated husk of a planet.
Yeah, so Melos is currently going through a nuclear winter, and that's where we'll pick up the story that you guys that come to the event will be playing in. And with that, should we go over the pack?
Yes.
So that
Yeah.
if you guys we're saying that, we're not going to go over the narrative section of the pack. At the end is included a story up to, I believe it's up to the Siege of Elysia now, and that's more of a black book style long form account of the Melos story that will be getting expanded as players play through missions and events. So through the pack, we have our delightful sponsors. Now we've got Deep Cut Studios, which you can see fairly often. I say fairly often. Every single time
every single game.
Yeah, there's on the channel. They provided mats for cheaper, as well as a bit of prize support. And Little Legend Studio, who is also providing some prize support for the event. Generously, I may add. So this, you can ignore this bit. This is the contents and the thanks of basically like me and Phil did this, and our Google Drive page. Preface, which we've just gone over with you guys. It's all good stuff. Read it in person, but if you're watching this video, you might be too lazy to read it, and that's why we've done the video. So then we've got the quote from Daniel Defoe and the Melos timeline, which basically takes the history of Melos from its original conquering in the Great Crusade, and then the reasons for war, and the last one is 28 days after. I believe it's 28 days after.
It is 28 days. That's why the entire event's called 28 days later.
Yeah, the planetary communication has been lost, and Melos is consumed by nuclear fire. Oh no, it's not 28 days later. The event will fill in the next one. That's how we wrote it. That's how we wrote it. Melos consumed by nuclear fire. On to, let's just skip the general rules section, what you need, because everyone knows what they need. We trust you to know what you need. The running of the event. Phil, do you want to give us like a general synopsis?
Yeah, so we're going to have 4 games over 2 days. This is from feedback that we've had from previous events. We have run 5 and we found that people are a little bit wiped out.
Yeah.
So we're going to have a briefing in the morning as well as registration. Then each person's going to be able to pick their games. We do it in a kind of a style of like you're holding a territory and defending or attacking depending on what happens there.
Yeah.
Then,
so in previous events there, we've had a campaign map.
Yeah, we have. We've had a map, and your warlord, who represents basically you and your forces, is put on there. So, and that's how we match up. So sometimes people don't know who they're facing. If there was a couple of like White Scars players, they may have different warlords, so you might not know who it is because we get you to place them, step away, and then the other people go and place them. So defenders get to place first and attackers do, but we've not agreed on that.
The order we will decide. Yeah. But so like tying into that, we have briefing sessions which are done by a warlord or general on either side, like loyalist or traitor general. Phil told me not to say warlord because that's confusing. So we've got generals on either side that will give the briefings. And this will be a chance for players to discuss who they want to be matched up against, potentially stratagems to be divvied up, to give extra bits of help to one player or another, depending on who they're taking on. And just general chat that we've seen it quite successful.
We found having like a general who's leading the loyalist or traitor forces has really helped, because we've seen people that have been really good at events. We've always seen that person who's really strong, probably steamrolling their opponents. So then the generals then can match up somebody who's equally on their side to try and take them out, like sort of like a decap strike to take the wind out of the sails. So we found it really, really good.
Well, even
grudge matches as well there. So if somebody's like, I want to play this person, it means that that's being arranged.
Yeah, well, it gives as well the opportunity for, if someone knows that they're going up against a stronger opponent and they've picked it. We've had that before where they've chosen that on purpose, knowing that they're going to lose, to do like a heroic last stand.
Yeah,
like I'm going to fall on my sword against this.
So we can
opponent.
We can win the other games that are around us.
Yeah.
So it does add to the narrative, and it has been worked into the campaign story as well over the past 4 events.
Yeah. So with that, the actual like campaign system, we're going to have 2 markers of success for the campaign. One which is territory held, and one which is campaign points, which will represent the resources that your forces will capture across the weekend. Now, there might be some knock-on effects of tables. So say you capture some resources in one location, that might give your forces greater stratagem points for the next time, or just provide an in-game quick benefit. I think we've done that before as well. Like we've done it both ways. And because this is to represent your forces trying to establish communication by finding like components or even just food to survive on the surface or below the surface of this irradiated world.
Yeah. Space Marines aren't immortal. They still need food, just not as much as other people.
Yeah, well, even like they all burn to death on Calth, don't they? Fairly effectively.
Yes.
Yeah, so like need some iodine tablets to survive that. And that will be the general running of the event. But in more specific running of the event, what are we doing, Phil?
So we're going to have 2 game modes that are going to be playable over the weekend. One, Zone Mortalis, as you can see there, 1,850 points. This is being incorporated with the new Siege of Cathonia rules, which we're currently play testing at the moment to see what we can do with it. And then the other one we've got is Surface Operations, which is held at 3,250 points. Melos is an isolated system, so we don't allow special characters or unique characters.
Well, it's we know where those characters are in the story,
and they aren't at Melos. Put it that way.
I've never heard it referenced.
No, and to be honest,
I'd like it to be. If it was ever referenced, it'd make
Sigismund just turns up at Melos, and that's it.
Not Sigismund.
Not Sigismund. The whole idea behind this as well is, yes, they're great and fun to use, but they're fighting their own battles. The other thing, we want you to create your own narrative with your warlords. It's really heavily encouraged to name the person who's representing you on the battlefield, to put up a little bit of a backstory about it, and we do read them, and it's really interesting. And again, they have been interwoven into the Melos setting over time. Yeah, so the way that we're going to do characters in this is we're going to give a character sheet to everyone, and we will give like sort of Mordheim style tick boxes. To Google the Mordheim character sheet if you don't know what Mordheim style tick boxes are.
we'll give Mordheim style tick boxes for experience gained across the weekend. And that won't just be killing the opposing warlord, because that's one of the most boring ways to give it out, and also very quickly just becomes the smashiest thing around.
Yeah.
It might be like buffing a unit that then kills another unit on an objective.
Holding an objective for a certain amount of time, not fleeing from when you've taken heavy losses due to being shot at. We've used multiple different ways to do this, and we find that's the best way, because again, it is a narrative campaign, it is a narrative event, and we find that breeds more of a story that people can take away with them.
Yes. In addition to that, we're going to actually have a section on the character sheet for headshots of your character. So you can get a Zoolander Blue Steel style character. And that would give you an experience point for doing that, as well as naming your character and giving a bit of backstory. And that's something that we're putting in there, expecting everyone to really do it. Do you know, like, it's not to penalise people that don't do it. I imagine everyone will take the very easy chance to get some experience points.
Yeah. Dave the Praetor turned up at Melos, killed some people, headshot.
Yeah, and that's all it needs to be, to just establish your own character in there, and then you can unfold the story from that point.
Yeah.
And then hate yourself forever for calling him Dave.
Dave the Praetor.
Yeah. So yeah, you take your Praetor, or in my preference, a Centurion or Consul level, and that might help with experience points. I don't know. You see when the character sheet comes out. Yeah, you'll take them and you'll get basically your story developed around them. Now, Phil, we have in the general rules implemented something.
Yeah, so because it is a narrative event and we do encourage different types of list building, but there's one thing, and there's the Contemptor-sized, Leviathan-sized, and also
Question in the room.
Yeah, question in the room. And we've gone similar to other events as well, and limited it so you can only take one Dreadnought per full 1,000 points. So in our event, you'll only ever be able to take 3 Dreadnoughts. Now, this will mean that Fury of the Ancients is off the table.
Well, I think you could do it. You could do the Dreadnought HQ and a Dreadnought in each of your troops.
And then you can then do it there.
Yeah, so you can do Fury of the Ancients.
Just not 9 Dreadnoughts like everybody else. But yeah, so we've decided, having faced a lot of Contemptors, a lot of Leviathans, and the usual complaints about them being really powerful, we have gone with this. So not saying no to them, just limiting them out there.
Yeah, so that's more of a game thing for the reason we've done that.
Yeah.
Now, more of a narrative exclusion, and this might be slightly contentious, but we're not allowing Talons of the Emperor to be played at the event. We are going to allow knights and stuff like that I've also seen banned by some narrative events, but Talons specifically are very focused and tight in where they are in the story of the Horus Heresy. And if you read the narrative at the back of this book, it's very much a backwater world. Although there can be key things about it, like resources, but custodians aren't going to be fighting over ferric ore. Yeah,
they're not there to find a new STL or anything like that. They're there to eradicate like threats that they're sent to by the Emperor. And as we all know, across the universe, there is a big battle going on at Terra.
But it's not right now, is it?
Not right now, but they're
in the webway.
They're in the webway, which is underneath the...
Yeah, which is underneath this.
The
no one knows that. No one knows. Only Vulcan and the Emperor know that.
So we have decided that to go with not banning, just not allowing. Banning sounds really harsh, but not allowing Talons of the Emperor, just as a pure narrative standpoint.
Yeah, and that's the it's not because we hate you Talons players. It's because we hate Matt Lloyd. So moving on to the Zone Metalis section, and this isn't a fleshed out section yet, right? And that's because Siege of Cathonia came out last week.
Only just dropped.
Yeah. Now, I've played a game of Zone Metalis and formed a slight opinion on some of the rules, but we are completely lacking battlefield data to this yet.
Yeah.
So we don't feel comfortable initially imposing things that might be stuck to. Like, I prefer to not change it at all, because we've already got other changes, right? I prefer to not change it at all than make a change and be forced to stick to a change.
Yeah.
That
we've seen that isn't right, doesn't work, not really as we intend it to do. We've done this previously, and when we've played test stuff, and we've played test stuff in isolation, which is great, but then when you get people to use it in a sandbox, you're
when
like...
the rubber hits the road.
Yeah, you're like, when the rubber hits the road, is what you said yesterday, you're kind of like, oh, I didn't envisage that working like that. So we need a fair few more games. I've still not played a game of Zone Mortalis.
Well, we're about to play a game of Zone Mortalis.
Yeah. So we need to see how that fleshes out, really.
Yeah. Should I say what we slightly think? Oh, what I'm slightly thinking?
No.
And you need to... No. You'll be left wondering until I do a Zone Mortalis video. So onto the surface operations, and this is a bit more complicated, right? This is something that we've all played. The event is aimed at people that tend to play a lot of games. We've all played lots of like general games up to now, and with the story being on Melos where it's up to, imagine this like it's like Talon, right? But nuclear, snowy,
like Snowpiercer,
Fat Piercer. So what we've done is, we're having a massive tank battle. So everyone with huge tank pools that they don't use in Heresy 2 anymore, this is the event for you. But we're doing a tank battle where we're also including sections where infantry can fight over. And that is these bunker complexes that actually, what's the film with Tom Hanks that he lives in the bunker for all the time? It's like basically you're searching out.
I don't know.
Do you not know?
No, I don't know.
Do you not know where his dad builds a bunker and he like lives in it until he's like 18 or 25?
No.
Oh, it's such a good film. Anyway, so it's like one of these classic redos of Terminal.
Right. Okay.
And he's like, do you know how like Terminal and Castaway are basically the same film?
Yeah.
Where he's like trapped in one location and going insane. It's one of them where he's trapped in one location and going insane.
Are you saying that Tom Hanks is... We're not getting into this. Let's move on.
So yeah, your infantry forces will be fighting in bunkers and compounds that are safe from the irradiated wastes. So with that, we're dividing the sections into two area types. One which is the table wider, which will only be able to... So basically, the only units that can operate on the wider table are tanks and vehicles, Archmagos and Magos types, Automata, Thalax, Ursarax, Skitari, Sekitari, and Demons. And that's pretty harsh, right? But basically what will happen is, if your unit is outside of a vehicle at the end of the controlling player's phase, the unit will suffer an automatic wound with instant death, no armor or damage mitigation allowed, but you will obviously then be able to get an invulnerable save if your unit has a heavy subtype. So if you don't have the heavy subtype, like Tartarus Terminators, you won't be able to take an invulnerable save against the irradiation that's creeping in. And that's to represent how like Breachers or even Cataphracti Terminators are more... They've got like void hardened armor, right? So that's to represent that, their safety.
Yep.
Now, to mitigate that without imposing too many like rights of war stipulations, we've added additional units to the troops section of army lists. So the addition to the army lists will be Predator squadrons for Legion Astartes. Auxilia will get armoured tertios, which are your Lehman Russ squadrons, but you have to have a squadron command tank in there. Mm-hmm. Just cause. Auxilia will have Lehman Russ, or Militia Lehman Russ squadrons, and your squadron sizes in that will be 2 to 5, not just limited to one tank, like most Auxilia. And Krios squadrons for Mechanicum. And that's, essentially just to give an outlet for your tanks, like to ease the pressure. Though I think Mechanicum already get a few that are alright operating.
Yeah.
But that's a good time to be a Mechanicum player.
They need a little bit of a boost somewhere, don't they?
Yeah, a little bit of love. And we'll give it to him even if Forge Will won't. So the actual gameplay of this, because you might be like, oh my god, tanks are so rubbish, or tanks versus tanks, that'll be over in 2 minutes. So what we're going to be doing is giving 2 additional movement phase and shooting phase reactions to each player. And these can only be used by tanks and vehicles, and only be used to do advance, withdraw, and evades. Now, what that will hopefully allow everyone to do, with a number of line of sight blocking pieces of terrain on the table, is when your opponent moves their tanks into position, you can move forwards to get closer to the objectives, to get your infantry in there to mitigate it. You could move to be out of line of sight of where they've moved their tanks to, and you can also evade more of their fire. Mm-hmm. Now, we didn't put that stipulation in initially, but with Siege of Cathonia coming out, where your tanks can return fire with main battle weapons, that would just increase the speed of everyone dying.
Yeah, you'd be like, oh, I'm going to shoot your tank, well, I'm going to shoot back. Oh, both tanks dead. And it's really not going to be that great, to be perfectly honest.
Exactly. And you can still do that the normal amount of times. It's just these additional reactions that we've given you won't be doing that.
Yeah.
Now, you might be saying, but I'm never going to move my tank to within 12 of someone else's tank. Like, if I'm playing Phil, well, I'm just going to keep my tanks at the back of the board because I've got 48-inch las cannons. Vehicles would be able to react from any other vehicle movement on the board, not just within the usual 12. And that's to just basically combat that exact thing. When are you ever going to get your las cannon tank within 12 of another tank? So it needed that bit of balancing.
Yeah, just so the game keeps on flowing and moving. Because he said, like, oh, they're just not going to be used at all if it's limited to 12. You're only going to use transports then that are probably going to do it. And the idea is that all the tanks should be taking a much more active role in the game.
Yeah. So then, Max and Phil, but I've got a load of infantry and I still want to play at your fabulous event. Now, we have got a provision for this, and that is about the table. What?
Love it.
I didn't tell Phil.
I love it.
Yeah, so we're going to have about the table bunker complexes that you'll be fighting over for the true objectives and resources of the game. The tanks are just there to deliver people, move people about the board, and control the overall territory. Now, the campaign points in the bunkers will be fought over by infantry. We're not going to make these so Metalis sections, we talked about it, but we felt it was too complicated with the other surface operation rules that we were adding.
We've added it in before where big complexes have had zone Metalis rules, and we found that people either forget to do it, or it adds an incredible level of complexity. And with it still being a relatively new edition, and with the Siege of Cathonia coming out, it's one that we decided to go against. So it would just be a building, a piece of terrain, really. Yeah,
and you might not be able to fire in and out of it. It will just be a building for this. Now, they will be safe havens for your infantry to operate in, and this will essentially be what gains campaign points for the tables. So we're currently thinking a couple of entrances on each bunker, maybe 1 or 2 bunkers across the entire event will have 1 entrance or 3 entrances. But yeah, 1 or 2, or a couple of entrances on each bunker. And they will be approximately 12 by 10-inch sections that provide these safe havens for you to pile into and potentially shoot out of the doors. Now, what?
No, I'm agreeing.
Phil?
No, what? I'm agreeing.
Yeah, so there are these harsh penalties to being outside, but if you want to be super heroic, there will be the provision of your infantry being able to like run out of the building to just to plasma a tank down so another unit can't get to their safe haven. You could do that. You could do that. And then with that, we will go on to list and gameplay changes. Right, so this is where we add... Do you want to go over it, Phil? Do you want to go over it?
So we're not changing any of the core rules massively, and that's one of the things. In previous Melos events, we've actually rewrote things and changed stuff. And again, because it's a pretty new edition, we're not going to do that. These are just things that we usually play with on the channel.
Yeah, the quality of life improvements.
Exactly, yeah. So one of the things is Fog of War. So when you've got units that are in a transport, you don't actually have to tell your opponent what's in the transport. You just need to allocate it and add it to it.
Yeah.
And we've seen some really great ways, and people have done this by numbering the transports and things like that. Oh, what number's that's number 1? Oh, it's this in here. And we just find it's a bit better because you're not going to know what's in it.
Yeah.
You know, it could be nothing. It could be a bunch of Cataphractii Terminators. We just don't know.
Yeah. And you might have to tell your army list to your opponent, but then say you've got 9 rhinos and 9 squads that could go in the rhinos, you don't have to tell which one's which.
Yeah. And then to the bitter end.
To the bitter end, Phil.
To the bitter end.
So, to the bitter end, Phil, what is that?
So, basically, if you're tabled, you don't automatically lose the game.
Yeah.
So, we don't have people mopping up victory points at the end. So, you could still be tabled, but then end up having scored enough to secure the territory or held off people. So, they're not actually taking it over from you, whatever. But we just felt like, with how brutal the game is, you don't automatically walk away as lost the game.
Yeah.
So
Because you could have controlled more strategic points. You will still lose the territory if you get tabled, but that's not going to count for that much compared to the campaign points objectives that you can still get. We then have prepared positions, and this is a bit of forward planning more than anything else. We've had this in most of our event packs, and it's basically just bunkers and things like that can be deployed outside your deployment zone.
Yeah.
And the barricades and stuff can be deployed away from them, not just within 3. We don't expect this to be used that much in the event, though if you find a way, do so. But
it's just so that, because we find that a lot of people, they have a bunker and then nothing, it either plays no part in the game, or a fortification plays no part in the game,
or a tank trap just pens you in your own deployment
zone. So by putting them 12 inches out your deployment zone, it gets a little bit more usage over the turns.
Next we have just 2 list editions, and these are because people have previously made these models for events. Is one of the things. We had a full units pack that was at the Melos event in 1.0, and these are ones that we specifically wanted to carry over. A lot of them actually, I think, have been satisfied by changes made in 2.0.
I think a lot of it's been picked up and been put into the books.
Whether or just isn't needed anymore because they happen to put those rules like Siege Breakers being able to give their Sunder to anyone. That wiped out a couple of units from our original pack.
Yeah.
So that's veteran squads can take Breacher Shield, Warhawk jump packs, Scimitar jet bikes, or normal bikes if you include one of those base squads in your army. And support squads can take Breacher Shields or Warhawk assault packs, jump packs if you have an assault squad in your army.
Fairly simple. I know there's also units from 1.0 that could do this previously, so it allows you to bring them along as well. Yeah,
and it just allows, if you hate your Evocati and Ultramarines that much, you can do it as a veteran squad. If you don't see the reason why your Iron Hands only have these Medusan Immortals with Breacher Shields, why doesn't my Breacher Company be able to have veterans? That's more the point. Why can't they have veterans?
Well, because when they get promoted to veteran, they hand over their Breacher
Shield.
Yeah,
you give back your shield.
There you go.
You've been doing really... I suppose it's part of, you get promoted to your point of incapability.
It's like, I've been using this grav gun really well as a breacher. Yeah, can we have that back off you now?
Here's command of a squad.
Yeah. Can we have that grav gun back off you?
This guy's really good with a heavy bolter. Give him a sniper rifle.
Take that off him.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just to allow a bit more freedom in army list building. And really, veterans, given these options, you can do pretty much anything that I can imagine a Legion specific. Do you know, as in, I think a Legion specific assault squad. I really want an assault squad in my Iron Warriors, say.
I think what it does, it bridges that gap. So, just take Sons of Horus. They have Reavers, which are assault veterans, basically. But that means that you can have a lower version of them.
Yeah.
In a halfway house. So, you can have veterans with jump packs in World Eaters, which then would be similar to the Reavers. It's probably a bad example, but you get what I mean by that.
And we're not saying that these units are worth it in a points-wise way, though we've applied the standard points that are in the books to these, except for the jet bike, because that's far too expensive.
25 points.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Just no
crazy.
one take it.
Yeah, we're not saying that these are going to be very good. We're just saying we've put them in there for people to be able to use. So then, with that, Phil, that is the end of our units and things for the actual event. But then we have the entire narrative section of the book, which is another, God, it's 15 pages now. 15 pages of fluff.
That's a quality.
And it's not even
that's
there.
a quality
Look,
introduction.
and it's got nice graphics. The Melos system. So yeah, it's all in there. And with that, shall we go over how people are gonna get tickets? Yeah. So if you are a member of the Bearfoot Miniatures Patreon, you will get early release tickets starting, shall it be today?
Yes.
Starting today, as you're watching this video.
Yes.
You'll be able to pre-release tickets. That will be in a link in the Dodecatheon channel, in the pinned post, as well as I'll just post it when this video comes out as well. So Phil, where can other people get their tickets from?
So they will be on Eventbrite and they will go for general sale on the 17th of June. You'll have a loyalist and trader ticket, so you get to pick which one it is there. There is also a schedule of how the day should play for it. So day 1 and day 2.
Well, should we say then, with you saying about the schedule of events, the Vale as a venue, can we stay there? What is happening?
Can you stay there? No, you can't. You can't be vagrant. You can't be a vagrant in the Vale. So the Vale in Mosley, it's a really great venue. Been to an event there before. Really like it. It's got quite good facilities. One thing, lots of toilets, which is I'm surprised at. So it is only going to be accessible by us and people at the event. So we can lock it up at the end of the night, so you are free to store your models there. You can bring them down on the Friday before if you want to take them. That's not a problem. They'll be locked. It's got an alarm and also a shutter on it, so we're quite happy with that. Then we'll be providing lunch for the 2 days. So if you just have any dietary requirements, come and let us know. And so it's roughly going to be, start's going to be around about 9 o'clock on the Saturday, run through to about 5, half 5. And then on the Sunday, we're looking at 9 o'clock start again, running through hopefully to about half 4, 5 o'clock, just a little bit earlier. Now,
Saturday night, Phil, what are we doing?
Saturday night. So
Saturday night.
We're not going to keep the place open for people to casual game. We're going to close it, so at the end of the event we're going to close it there. If people do want to go out, we'll look at arranging somewhere to eat. We've done this previously, a lot of people have had a lot of fun there. If you're looking a bit further afield, you can always get the train into Manchester and things like that.
And that will be our default as well, is doing something. Like they, we've always done it before. It's just if people don't want it, we're not going to do it.
Yeah, it's not forced fun.
Well, Jason's just opened a bar.
So this is the thing, but so we are looking at a bar that we can go to as well, which will be primarily just
where the studio used to be.
Where the old studio used to be. Really, really good. Jason's doing really well, and it looks fantastic. So we'll post some pictures up of that.
Just check my Instagram. The pictures will be on there.
There you go.
There we go. And yeah, that was it for this video. Hopefully you guys got a bit of an idea about what Melos is about and just a jumping off point for you getting information on the whole campaign system. As we said, if you want to check more out about the background of Melos, we're doing a campaign on the channel that's a prequel to the Retribution fleet's arrival.
Yep.
And then hopefully, as we get some more forces, like I get some Ultramarines whenever that happens, if it happens in the future.
Don't do that to yourself.
I want them just to be the other side of this conflict. We'll do a Melos actual campaign on the channel.
Yeah.
And with that, we'll close it out. Thank you for watching.
Thank you very much.
See you later.